A couple years ago, I was putting together my album, and I needed to have a title piece, one that had some kind of bang to it. And I heard this great theme on BBC of something. Anyways, it was really powerful to me, and I figured, gosh, I gotta figure out how they do that. And so I got the main theme, and this is kind of what happened. Go. It's a hard thing. You got to plan it just right, or else you miss it. So anyways, everyone's heard me, play a couple times here in the division, and I wanted the opportunity to kind of share with you a lot more of my music and to show you what I kind of really can do. So this next piece is called Call to Flight, and I've always been fascinated by hang gliding and paragliding. It's something I've always kind of wanted to learn how to do. It's just, I think it's so cool every time I go by the point of the mountain. And this song captures what I hope to be the story of what it would be like to learn how to paraglide. You get there, you have the equipment set up, you're kind of watching everybody else take off and you're kind of nervous. And then you finally get it and you go for it and you learn, you kind of take off. And so the picture I have, I love this picture because there's such energy. And this guy is taking off and trying to, achieve, the dream of human flight. So, Call to Flight. This next piece, going to probably work a little bit more pensive, quiet song, I call Memories. And last year, actually a year ago this week, right? Grandfather passed away. And as I have, and he was a great inspiration to me and to many people. And as I have thought, how do I capture my feelings towards him and all that he meant to me, this is a song I wrote shortly after he passed. And the picture I have with it is one of my favorite views in the whole world. It's from my grandparents' house. And this is a view of Timpanogos at sunset, at dusk. And it was last spring. It's actually in the fall, never mind. And just, this is the image I have of sunset, of fading light and auburn and the colors filling the valley, because he was a man of elevated vision. And he was someone that taught others how to view the world in different ways. And so this is my attempt to try and capture, those feelings. This next piece has an interesting story. It's quite possibly the most beautiful song ever written in a Korean factory. I was doing an internship in South Korea for LG Electronics, and I was an internship director for them out there. And when they took us on a tour of the place initially, they showed us this big auditorium in the factory I was working in. And I was like, there has to be a piano up there. I mean, if there's Koreans running this place, I mean, how do you know if a Korean's robbed your house? the homework's done, the piano's practiced, and the dog's been eaten. So, I mean, there's got to be a piano. So sure enough, after work one day, I went up there and I found this old clunker of a piano, and a lot of the keys weren't working. So I had to, I was just playing, and for some reason the song just came to me, because the only keys that worked were ones that could do this. Those are it. That's all I could do. And so one time a guard came by and he had his flashlight on. He says, "What are you doing back here?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm just playing piano." And he said, "Well, you can't come up here. This is against the rules." I'm like, "Well, can I play you something?" And he said, "Well, we'll have to go." I'm like, "Just sit down." So I played him this piece, and afterwards he clicked his light off, and he said, "You can come any day." And so pretty soon, every day he'd bring his guard buddies back, and I'd be playing for them every day after work. And I had like a little flashlight on my head because I couldn't figure out where the lights were. Anyways, this is a piece that I call Snow, because I try and capture a snowstorm on a piano. So imagine in the beginning of a snowstorm, you get little flecks of snow here and there, and then it builds and builds and builds until finally it's this full-blown blizzard. And then it breaks, and this is kind of what I imagine after the storm breaks. Sun comes out, glistening over the new whitely covered trees, and the storm is kind of passing. So this is one of my real favorite songs here. This piece I wrote, I think this last year. At the same time I wrote Memories. And this has a lot of emotions for me in that, imagine, well, here's the picture. I took this when I was actually on my internship in Seoul, and it was a rainy day, as you can derive. And it's just the feeling of walking in this, puddles and the drizzly air coming down. And I first played it in the Helton's home, my neighbor here, and they have a picture of a street and a rainy street and stuff in their house. And so when I played it, I looked up, or was it your niece? She said I felt like she was in that picture, yes. Right? And so that's why I called it Walking in the Rain. I imagine it's a pensive piece, and it's a gentle piece where you're just kind of enjoying being out in this kind of murky, soupy environment, but it's really fun. And I've always wondered, in looking at this picture, who's that person waiting for? What stories are being told in this painting? And this was taken in a palace in downtown Seoul, and the forests and the trees of Seoul in Asia are just stunningly beautiful. And so this is Walking in the Rain. I love that piece. Oftentimes at night, that's what I play before I go to bed. Kind of just calms me down and sets the mood. And here's the part of the concert where I need an audience participant. Now, here's what I need. It's kind of challenging. I need this participant. I mean, no piano experience is required, but they have to be able to play 2 notes on the piano and count to 4. If you feel underqualified, then maybe we need to have a discussion. But need someone to come help me play a piece. So do I have a volunteer? Missy, come on up. Okay, so Missy, this is kind of a really big deal here.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so the two notes I need you to play is that black one and that white one. That's it.
Okay.
You got it?
Yes.
Okay. So here's how it works. So you go, so it's 4 measures, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the first one. Second measure is 1, 2. You're doing pretty well so far. The third one is back up here again. And then the fourth one, you go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Okay? So let's just try this a couple times. Now you eventually just keep doing this on your own, and I'm going to do my own thing. You know,
Okay.
I got a couple ditties on the back end here we can do. Okay, so here we go. Let's try it. Start over. Okay, here we go. You just do it. That's your job. That's your job.
That's all I do.
Yeah, your job is just those two
Good
notes.
for you. Right.
Yeah, no, you just,
All right.
2 fingers, that's all you need.
Settle down, Missy.
I know, right?
Control yourself.
Tell me about it. Yeah, no, you just, hold on.
Don't mean to steal your thunder there.
Oh no, I'm just trying to keep things simple here. Ready? Here we go. I'm gonna do my stuff now. Nice. No, last time. Thank you, Missy. I know. What? I couldn't have done it without her, really. And Missy, for that, I'll give you a copy of my album.
No way!
Yep.
Oh my gosh, thanks!
I got a whole lot of unsold ones, so don't worry. I can spare one. Okay, this next piece. Oh, biking up the canyon. This is fun. So one day, a couple months ago, I was driving the car, listening to Classical 89, as I'm wont to do, and there's this Brahms cello quartet that came up, and here was the main theme. So for some reason, things sometimes jump out at me when I hear really neat tunes. And that's one that just leapt out at me. It just started kind of percolating in the back of my brain. And that was a Thursday, I think. That night, I went on a bike ride up the canyon. And it just kept going. And how I kind of work on pieces is that I come up with ideas and I try and formulate a block. Okay, I got this set now. What's the next theme? And I develop that a couple ways and I try and put them together. Does that work? Or no, let's try and get another theme. I mix them around. So I find a combination of stuff that I like. And so I go on a bike ride on Thursday night and ideas just were coming through me the entire time. And eventually I had a piece, a whole structurized piece ready to go. And now when I got back, I was like, I have to now figure out how to play this. And this is, I call it biking up the canyon because this is what came from when I was biking up the canyon. And so I love this picture. because, I mean, Provo Canyon is just one of my favorite places in the whole world. But, it's kind of a dark, day in the fall, and it was kind of a cold, misty evening. And I don't know, there's just a lot of things that were going on. So this is a really fun piece. I've since stopped going up the canyon because I'm scared what else might come out. This next piece, okay. So this piece has a good story. And the story behind this and the person that inspired it for the second time that I performed it in this room is not here today. Kirk Strong is responsible for this piece. When I was being interviewed by BYU, I was asked a bunch of questions like, are you a pioneer or are you a settler? Which? And decide one of them, and you have to be one or the other. Or the other was like, are you kind or are you professional? And I was like, kind. Then Kirk would say, well, what's wrong with being professional, And I didn't know him, so I'm like, freaking out. Then he asked me, well, are you creative or are you patient? And I said, now hang on a minute. I do creativity, and creativity demands patience. A truly creative person has to wait for the right idea to come, and then you have to work really hard at it to develop it into something that works. And you go through hundreds of things. So oftentimes a piece that's 4 minutes long may take me 4 months to write because, I'm always working on it, coming from new ideas. And I said, well, and if you hire me, then I'll show you what I mean. So I was hired in June 2011, and 2 weeks later, I was running in the morning, and let's see. That was the tune that came, and I was like just floored. So if you see me running and stop, all of a sudden go like this and like, run back to my house, something very musical has happened. And so I ran home and I started plunking this thing out on the piano. And for 4 months I worked on that theme. And what you're about to hear is that specific thing that happened. So I'm going to go plug this in real quick. Got a hand at the Ken here. Going to help me out with something. So the image that I have is on Halloween night. So I first performed it on this piano in this room in 2011 in October. And I imagine some kids, in a graveyard Halloween night, leaves are kind of rustling and stuff. And like, I dare you to go in there. No, I dare you. And pretty soon they go in and stuff begins to happen. No, this is fun. That is a true picture. That really is me playing a piano on fire. I did try to make a music video of this piece, but it didn't turn out. But this is the coolest shot of the whole thing. And it's actually the same piano that I lugged up and over the Alpine Loop in Discovery. So, thanks, Kent. I mean, again, my lovely assistant, Kent Norris. Kent. We had to go undergo intensive training for this.
Christian, was that the demise of the piano?
No, it's still very much alive. A little, the piano really is on fire, and there's no CGI or computer graphics. But a couple times in the Discovery music video, I did want to just kick it off a cliff. Just like, gah! It's so heavy. Okay. Change of pace. This is a piece, it's called In the Quiet, and it's never actually been performed in public before. Recently, a close friend had a loss in their family, and as I, in trying to, be close to them and everything, this tune came, and these words came, and this is the piece I'm going to sing, and I have a recording of me playing it in the background. But it's a song of love and it's a song of loss. My iPhone's going to work with things. In the quiet, I lay still. Your being fills my mind. In the passing dream I find your hand is close to mine. In the new and growing light, you're there by my side. In the still and quiet peace, my thoughts turn to the night, when our hearts and lanterns burning, we met and grew as one, though 'twas night and all earth slumbering, our day had just begun. From your eyes the daylight shined, brilliant, piercing gaze. In your laughter heaven sang, your smile filled my days. When our hearts and lanterns burning, we knew and saw as one, and though 'twas night and all earth slumbering, our day had just begun. A brave new world, our courage find, Eden our paradise. Endless were our dreams to be, gleaming sure and bright, when our hearts and lanterns burning, I knew you were my one, and though 'twas night and all earth slumbering, our day had just begun. I see you in the light. Oh, that was the picture I had for that. That would have been nice. I love this ethereal glow that came with the clouds, and it was after a rainstorm last summer, and it just had this magnificent glow, and I just had to stop and take a picture of it. It was, and that's the light I imagine as I referenced through the piece. So real quick, couple thoughts on talent. So, here I can play the piano till the cows come home, and some people may think, oh gosh, I can't play piano like that, or I can't sing, or anything like that. Well, I want to talk about some of the best examples of my life, and these are my siblings, and I want to talk about some different ways I think we need to look at talents and gifts. So, my two sisters and my brother, and is at his wedding 2 years ago, I think now, a year and a half ago. So first, everyone knows my sister Kate. She's the famous Olympian. I mean, my parents had 4 shots and they finally got their Olympian. And I was the alternate. They needed backup. What can I say? And so this is actually one of her earliest pictures of her losing. That's our cousin Andrew, who is here at BYU right now as well. And they grew up together. And so this is one of my favorite pictures of Kate. This was after the closing ceremonies, and some people challenged her to a dance-off. So there she is in the middle of the Olympic Stadium dancing. Okay. So how cool of a picture is that? So everyone knows the Kate, the Olympian, and Kate, the famous star who fooled the world on Jimmy Kimmel. But I have a story about Kate. Last year was her birthday, and she said, hey, we're getting together. Some friends are going to meet me for some pizza, at the Slab for my birthday. So I was like, okay. Then when I think a couple of friends, I think, 10, if that, right? I kid you not, 40 people showed up. 40 people, and they were from all different parts of her life. We had cousins, family, friends, people that had one class with her, people probably stalked her on Instagram. Everyone's, there. And I watched how Kate handled this. We all kind of split up in different groups in the restaurant. And she had her pizza, and she went and sat down at one table, talked with them for 5 minutes, said, hey, I just got to go real quick. She goes and talks to the other table. And I watched her, she made her way around every single table and said hi and made sure everybody felt included, a part of what was going on. Later, we went to her apartment, and we had a thing where all of her roommates said what they liked most about Kate. And the single most commented thing was that Kate is an inclusive person. She makes everybody feel like they're part of and they're included, okay? So when I think of Kate, yeah, she's an Olympian, but, come on, I threw her in the pool when she was little. But I think that, she is an inclusive person. This is my sister Heidi. This is our, you get emotional. Growing up, Marion was our neighbor. She was like a grandmother to us. And she didn't have any kids of her own. And she moved out from Minnesota in the 40s, and she's part of the group of women that we call Rosie the Riveters. And she moved to Los Angeles and worked in the factories while the men were off to war. And we would always go back, and every time we went home, we'd go and visit Marion. And Heidi would always hold her hand. Piano's blocking it, but she's holding her hand, and Heidi would ask her questions. So tell me about your childhood, Marion, or tell me about this, or how are you doing? And she had, back in the fall, she had a heart attack, and she had to go to the hospital. And this was one of the last pictures Heidi has with Marion. because we would go and Heidi would always just talk to her. And later, Marion died as we were actually leaving for Russia. And Heidi is a good listener, and she can ask questions really well and make you feel like you're important right that moment. And that, I just love this picture of Heidi because it shows how much she loves Marion. My brother, Davis, this is he and his wife, Sydney. He's an insanely talented. If you think I'm good at the piano, you need to hear him. My gosh. I think I can do jazz piano like you wouldn't believe. He's a very talented vocalist. Everything I did in life, he followed and he did better. He got the tall, skinny blonde jeans, and I got the short, stubby brown jeans. I did choir in high school. He gets vocalist of the year, for LA County. I did water polo. His team wins LA, for Southern California Championship. I had no hope of ever. But and we both served in Korea, oddly enough. I think I speak better Korean than him, though. I'm going to hold on to that one. But Davis is the type of person that I know I can call him at any time of day and say, I need your help. And he would come. And he is the first one there to get stuff done. And he says, let's get it done. Let's go. And he's always willing to help. And he's willing to put himself out there for whatever you need help with. And so here's the thing. Kate has the gift of making others feel inclusive. Heidi has the gift, they all have a lot of gifts. Heidi has the gift of, listening and asking questions and making you feel important. Davis has the gift of recognizing a need and stepping in. And at the end of the day, when I get to the pearly gates, is it going to be any important at all if I can tell them I can play piano? No. But I think in the heavenly scope of things, being inclusive and being thoughtful and considerate and helping others is just as important and probably a lot more important than just, having the gift of music. And I firmly believe that talents come in all shapes and sizes because the people we're supposed to bless come in all shapes and sizes. And I don't want you to think for 1 second that you don't have talents, because you have great gifts and great things and great lives that you're supposed to bless with them. And whether it's just a simple thing as saying hello or giving a hug or dropping off cookies, that's a gift. And that's blessing someone's life. And that's, at the end of the day, what's important. If I just played piano all by myself, it would be worth nothing. But this is the type of thing I love to do, is to share my gifts that I've worked really hard at and hopefully blessing your lives in some way. To end on a spiritual note, my last two songs are arrangements that I've written. The first one is I Believe in Christ. It's a piano piece I wrote a couple years ago. And the image that I have is this. Is Lake Blanche up, I think, Little Cottonwood Canyon. And I think it's one of the most visually stunning places that we have on the Wasatch Front. And it's just beautiful. And the grandeur of what the Savior means to me and his creations, I think, are best exemplified, in this picture here. So, I believe in Christ. This final piece is an arrangement of the pieces I've played today. This one I'm about to sing means the most probably to me. It's an arrangement of Lead Kindly Light. And I wrote it last year, January 1st. I'd just gotten home from being home for the holidays, and there was a lot of things going on in my life at that time. We had some big-time family things going on, a lot of personal challenges, health and business, and a lot of things were going on, and we had a lot of concerns. And 2013 was an awfully ominous year for our family at the beginning. And as I was home in my apartment, just looking at, what I needed to write something. I had to write something, and I was flipping through the pieces in the hymn book, and Lead Kindly Light just jumped out at me. Again, I've said that word a couple times when I get things I need to write. And the words, "Lead kindly light amid the encircling gloom, lead thou me on. The night is dark and I am far from home. Keep thou my feet, I do not ask to see, the distant scene one step enough for me." And as I was writing, and ideas came, and and up until this point, I'd actually never sung a solo in church before. I'd always been too afraid. And this is the first song I've ever written and subsequently performed as a singing piece. So, and then my grandmother asked that I sing at my grandfather's funeral, and I arranged it so that my brother and I can both sing it together. And this was a real kind of powerful piece. So, to make sure I'm singing in tune. Back here. Okay. Lead kindly light amid the encircling gloom. Lead thou me on. The night is dark and I am far from home. Lead thou me on. Keep thou my feet. I do not ask to see the distant scene, one step enough for me. I was not ever thus, nor prayed that thou shouldst lead me on. I love to choose and see my path, but now lead thou me on. I loved the garish day and spite of fears, pride ruled my will. Remember not past years. So long thy path bless me, sure it still will lead me on, o'er moor and fen, o'er crag and torrent till the night is gone, and which I have loved long since and lost a Lead, kindly light, amid the encircling